I never told my daughter about the wine cellar beneath our San Juan Islands estate. The underground vault. The collection my late wife Elena spent 30 years building, bottle by careful bottle, painting by loving painting. Some secrets aren't meant to be kept forever, but they need to wait for the right moment, the right person. I learned that lesson too late, and it almost cost us everything. My name is Robert Ashford. I'm 68 now, a retired neurosurgeon who spent 4 decades in Seattle's best hospitals. Elena passed 5 years ago, cervical cancer that moved faster than any of us expected. She was a gallery curator, had an eye for art that could spot a masterpiece in a garage sale. Our daughter Sophia was 32, an architect with her own firm in Seattle, brilliant like her mother, stubborn like me. The estate on San Juan Island had been Elena's dream. We bought it in 1989, a sprawling property with ocean views, and enough privacy that you could forget the world existed. The main house was beautiful, sure, but what made it special was what Elena built underneath. A climate-controlled wine cellar that doubled as her art studio. She'd go down there for hours, surrounded by bottles we'd collected from Napa, Bordeaux, Tuscany, and paint. Watercolors mostly. Scenes of Sophia, growing up, the island, our life together. I hadn't been down there since the funeral. Couldn't bring myself to. The entry was hidden behind a false wall in the basement, secured with a biometric lock that only responded to 2 handprints, mine and a cast Elena had made of her own hand 3 months before she died. She knew she was leaving us. She wanted the cellar preserved exactly as it was. Dad, I want you to meet someone. It was March 2024. Sophia had driven up from Seattle with a man I'd never heard of until 2 weeks prior. Marcus Pemberton, 35, she said, an entrepreneur. He had that look, you know the one. Expensive watch that was just a touch too flashy. Designer clothes that screamed money rather than whispered it. Smile that never quite reached his eyes. We shook hands on the front porch. His grip was firm, calculated. Beautiful property, Mr. Ashford. Sophia's told me so much about it. She's told me very little about you, I said. Sophia laughed. That nervous laugh children use when they want you to play nice. We met at the Arts Foundation Gala in January. Marcus supports several galleries in Seattle. Collector? I asked. Investor, he corrected. I help galleries optimize their portfolios, connect with the right buyers. There's an art to art, if you'll pardon the expression. We had dinner that night. Rack of lamb, one of Elena's recipes that Sophia had perfected. Marcus asked questions. Too many questions. What did I do in retirement? Did I miss surgery? What was my investment strategy now that I wasn't working? Did Sophia stand to inherit the island property? That last one made me set down my fork. That's a strange question to ask at a first dinner. Just making conversation, he said smoothly. I work with a lot of families doing estate planning. It's good to think ahead. We've got a lawyer for that. Sophia touched his arm. Marcus is just interested in my family, Dad. That's a good thing. I bit my tongue. Watched him the rest of the evening. The way his eyes roamed over the paintings on the walls, all Elena's work. The way he picked up the small bronze sculpture by the fireplace, turning it over to check the signature on the bottom. The way he excused himself to use the bathroom and took 15 minutes, long enough to peek into rooms he had no business entering. They left Sunday afternoon. Sophia hugged me tight on the porch. He's good to me, Dad. I know he's different from what you're used to, but he makes me happy. That's what matters, I said, because what else could I say? But I watched Marcus load their bags into his BMW, and I saw him looking back at the house with an expression I recognized from years of reading patients before surgery. Calculation, assessment, the look of someone taking inventory. I called my lawyer Monday morning. Paul, I need to update my will. Everything goes to Sophia, but with conditions. A trust she can access but can't be touched by any spouse unless they've been married more than 10 years. Worried about something, Robert? Call it surgical intuition. But I didn't tell Sophia about the cellar. Elena and I had always planned to show her when she was older, more settled. The collection wasn't just valuable, it was deeply personal. Those paintings were Elena's love letters to our family. The wines were bottles we'd shared on anniversaries, birthdays, the night Sophia was born. We had a 1,982 Chateau Margaux from the year we bought the island, a 1,990 Romane Conti from Sophia's high school graduation, a 1,990 947 Cheval Blanc that Elena's father had given us at our wedding. The whole collection had been appraised at just under $200,000. But the paintings, Elena's paintings, those were priceless. You can't put a value on your wife's hand painting your daughter's first smile, your family's history captured in watercolor and love. Sophia called me in early September, voice breathless with joy. "Dad," Marcus proposed. "We're getting married in November, small ceremony at the Fairmont. Please say you'll walk me down the aisle." What do you say to that? Your daughter's happy. At least she thinks she is. You swallow your doubts. Tell yourself you're just being a protective father, paranoid after losing your wife. Maybe this Marcus is exactly who he appears to be. Maybe I'm wrong. Of course I will, sweetheart. Congratulations. The wedding was elegant. Sophia looked like her mother in her dress, and I almost couldn't breathe walking her down that aisle. Marcus stood there, beaming, and I shook his hand, gave him the speech fathers give. "You're getting someone precious. Treat her that way. She's my world now, Mr. Ashford." At the reception, I noticed Marcus talking to my brother-in-law, asking questions about the island property again. Square footage, property taxes, whether there were any other structures on the land besides the main house. "There's an old boathouse," my brother-in-law said, "but Robert doesn't use it much anymore." Marcus's eyes lit up. Boathouse. Interesting. I filed it away. Surgical instinct again. Something was off. They honeymooned in Bali. When they returned, Sophia suggested they spend Thanksgiving at the island. Our first holiday, as a married couple, in the place Mom loved most. I couldn't say no to that. They arrived Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Marcus immediately started exploring, said he wanted to get to know the property better. I watched him walk the grounds, saw him take pictures on his phone, of the house, the outbuildings, the basement access door. "Looking for something?" I asked, coming up behind him. He didn't startle, just smiled. Beautiful architecture. Sophia said the house was built in the 1950s. I'm amazed at the craftsmanship. Elena and I did extensive renovations, added the basement level in 1991. Basement? Sophia mentioned you had good storage space. For a house this size? Sure. He nodded, but I saw his jaw tighten. He was fishing. I just didn't know what he'd hooked yet. Thanksgiving dinner was tense. I kept catching Marcus staring at Elena's paintings on the walls. "Your wife was talented," he said. "Have you considered selling any of these? I know several collectors who'd pay well for original work. They're not for sale." "Everything has a price, Mr. Ashford." "Not everything." Sophia shot me a look. "Please, Dad, be nice." I tried. I really did. But that night, I heard footsteps on the stairs around 2 a.m. I got up quietly, looked out my bedroom door. Marcus, fully dressed, with a flashlight, heading toward the basement. I waited 10 minutes. Then I followed. He was in the basement, tapping on walls, looking for hollow spaces. He'd found the false wall, was running his hands over it, searching for seams, switches, anything. Little late for exploring. He spun around. The flashlight beam hit my face, then lowered. Couldn't sleep. Thought I heard something down here. Pipes, maybe. Pipes are on the other side of the house. My mistake. He smiled, but it was different now. Sharper. Old houses have their secrets, don't they? Every house does. We stared at each other in the dark basement, and I knew then with absolute certainty that Elena and I had been right to hide the cellar. This man wasn't here for Sophia. He was here for what he thought we had. They left Friday afternoon. Sophia hugged me, whispered, "Thank you for trying." But as they drove away, I saw Marcus on his phone, typing rapidly. I had a bad feeling settling in my gut, the kind I used to get before a complicated surgery. Something was going very wrong, and I needed to be ready. 2 weeks later, Sophia called. "Dad, did Mom have a journal? Something she wrote in regularly?" My blood went cold. "Why do you ask?" Marcus found a box in our storage unit. Some things from the island house that I'd packed away after the funeral. There was a leather journal, Mom's handwriting. Most of it was just daily stuff. But there was one entry from 2019. She wrote about the cellar, Dad. She said it held your legacy. I closed my eyes. Elena's journal. I'd completely forgotten about it. She'd kept it with her while doing chemo, writing thoughts, memories. Sophia must have packed it away, not knowing what was in it. "Marcus is asking about it," Sophia continued. "He wants to know where this cellar is. He's been researching wine collections, art storage. He thinks there's something valuable down there. What did you tell him? That I didn't know what Mom meant. That maybe it was just metaphorical, you know? But Dad, is there something you haven't told me? I could hear the hurt in her voice, the confusion, and something else, suspicion. Marcus was working on her, turning her against me. Sophia, there are things about your mother's wishes that I've been honoring. When the time is right, I'll explain everything. But I need you to trust me right now. Can you do that? Silence. Then, Marcus says, you're being secretive because you don't trust us with the family assets. He says that's not fair, especially now that we're married. He says in Washington, community property laws mean I'm entitled to know about any inheritance. Marcus says a lot of things. He's my husband, Dad. I know, sweetheart. Just, please, trust your old man a little while longer. But she didn't sound convinced when we hung up. I called my lawyer again. Paul, if my son-in-law tries to get information about my property holdings, my investments, anything, you don't tell him a word. Attorney-client privilege? Family trust? I don't care what legal framework you use, but he gets nothing. Robert, what's going on? Protection. Elena wanted the cellar kept private. I'm honoring that. Maybe it's time to tell Sophia, not while he's in her ear. I flew to Seattle 2 days before Christmas. Sophia had invited me for the holidays, and I wasn't going to miss it, even if it meant dealing with Marcus. I stayed at a hotel rather than their condo. Needed the distance. Christmas Eve dinner was at an expensive restaurant Marcus chose. He ordered wine, a 2015 Silver Oak. Nothing special, but expensive enough to make a point. You know wine, Mr. Ashford? Elena and I collected a bit. Sophia mentioned you had some bottles from Europe. Napa. I'd love to see the collection sometime. It's modest. Come on, Robert. First time he'd used my first name. I'm family now. You can share these things. In fact, I've been thinking, after the holidays, why don't Sophia and I come up to the island? I'd love to learn more about the property, maybe help you develop it better. You're sitting on valuable real estate that could be generating income. I like it as it is. But think about Sophia's future. Our future. When you're gone, she'll inherit a property she can't maintain alone. Better to optimize it now, while you can guide the process. Maybe turn part of it into a boutique hotel, vacation rentals. The San Juan Islands are prime tourist territory. Sophia was nodding along. He'd been working on her, filling her head with financial strategies, making himself sound reasonable while painting me as the stubborn old man holding everyone back. The property stays as Elena wanted it, I said firmly. Elena's gone. Robert. His voice went cold. You can't live in the past forever. I set down my fork carefully. Sophia, can I talk to you alone? Dad, Marcus is right. We need to have a conversation about estate planning. I'm your only heir. I should know what I'm inheriting, what decisions need to be made. This isn't the time or place. Then when? Marcus leaned forward. When you're dead, and she's sorting through paperwork. That's not fair to her. You're being selfish. I stood up. Good night, Sophia. Merry Christmas. I walked out of that restaurant knowing I'd lost ground. Marcus was winning, and I needed a new strategy. Back at the hotel, I made decisions. First, I called a security company. Had them install additional cameras around the island property, specifically covering the basement entrance. Second, I called my lawyer. Paul, I need you to draft documentation. The wine cellar and its contents go to Sophia, but in trust. She gets access on her 45th birthday or in the event of divorce, whichever comes first. If she's still married to Marcus then, the trust continues until they've been married 20 years. That's very specific. That's very intentional. I flew back to the island the day after Christmas. Didn't hear from Sophia for 3 weeks. Then, in mid-January, my phone rang at 6 a.m. Dad. Her voice was shaking. I need to tell you something. Don't be angry, please. But Marcus hired someone. A locksmith. He told me he was having keys made for our condo, but I found a receipt. It was for a consultation about historical locks and hidden rooms. Dad, what's in the cellar? My heart was pounding. Where is Marcus now? He flew to Vancouver this morning. Business meetings, he said. But Dad, I think he's planning something. He's been on his laptop constantly, looking at floor plans of old houses, security systems, biometric locks. I looked over his shoulder yesterday and saw he'd been Googling the San Juan Island property records, architectural surveys. How long is he in Vancouver? 3 days. Pack a bag. Come to the island. Now. It's time I showed you what your mother left for you. She arrived that afternoon. I met her at the ferry, and we drove to the house in silence. Inside, I led her down to the basement. She'd been in this space 1,000 times, growing up, but she'd never known what was behind the wall. I pressed my hand against the biometric scanner, and the lock clicked. The false wall swung open, revealing a staircase leading down into darkness. I flipped the switch, and lights illuminated Elena's sanctuary. Sophia gasped. The cellar was exactly as Elena had left it. Climate controlled at 55 degrees, humidity at 70%. Wine racks along 2 walls held nearly 300 bottles, organized by region and vintage. But it was the 3rd wall that made Sophia start crying. 30 paintings, all Elena's work. Sophia as a baby. Sophia learning to walk on the island's rocky beach. Sophia's first day of school. Teenage Sophia reading under a tree. Adult Sophia at her architecture firm's opening. And one massive canvas in the center. All 3 of us together. Painted from a photo taken the summer before Elena's diagnosis. Mom did all of these? She'd come down here every week. Said it was her way of stopping time, keeping you safe in paint and memory. The wines are from every important moment in our family's life. That Chateau Margaux is from 1982, the year we bought the island. That Romanée Conti is from your high school graduation. That bottle of Cheval Blanc in the corner, that's from 1947. Elena's father gave it to us at our wedding. It's probably worth $30,000 on its own now. Sophia walked slowly along the walls, touching the frames gently. Why didn't you tell me? Your mother wanted to wait until you were older, settled, ready to understand what this meant. Not just the monetary value, but the emotional weight. These paintings, this collection, it's not an asset to be liquidated, Sophia. It's our family's soul. She turned to me, tears streaming. Marcus wants to sell it, doesn't he? Marcus wants to sell anything he can get his hands on. He's in debt, sweetheart. I had him investigated last month. Cryptocurrency investments gone bad. He owes nearly $200,000 to some very unpleasant people. He married you because he thought you came with money he could access. No. But she said it weakly, like she already knew it was true. I handed her a folder. Bank statements, credit reports, private investigator photos of Marcus meeting with creditors. She read through it, face going paler with each page. The locksmith, she whispered. He was going to break in. I installed new security cameras last month. If he'd tried, I'd have him on video, and we'd have legal grounds for a restraining order. But I think he was smarter than that. I think he was going to manipulate you into giving him access, maybe convince you to sell just a few bottles to help with some manufactured emergency. Sophia sat down on the floor, surrounded by her mother's paintings, and cried. I sat beside her, arm around her shoulders like I used to when she was little and had nightmares. I'm so stupid. You're not stupid. You're trusting. There's a difference. Your mother was trusting too. It's a beautiful quality, but it needs to be protected. We stayed in the cellar for hours. I told her stories about each painting, each bottle, which anniversary we'd opened, which wine, what Elena had said while painting each scene. By the time we went back upstairs, Sophia had a different look in her eyes. Resolve. I'm filing for divorce. Are you sure? Mom built this for me. For us. She spent 30 years creating something beautiful, and he wanted to sell it to pay off crypto debts. Yeah, I'm sure. Marcus came back from Vancouver 3 days later. Sophia had moved out of their condo, was staying with a friend. She served him papers the same day he landed. He called me that night, voice shaking with rage. You poisoned her against me. I showed her the truth. There's a difference. That collection is community property. Washington law says anything acquired during the marriage gets split. The collection was acquired before your marriage. By me and my late wife. Sophia hasn't inherited yet. You have no legal claim. I could make this ugly, Robert. Contest the will. Drag this through courts for years. You could try. But my lawyer's very good, and I have documentation of your debts, your fraud attempts. You came into my daughter's life with lies, and you'll leave with nothing. That's not revenge, Marcus. That's consequences. He hung up. I heard later that he moved to California, still chasing the next big investment scheme. The divorce was final by September. Sophia struggled for a while. She'd loved him, or loved who she thought he was. And that kind of betrayal cuts deep. But she had good friends, a good therapist, and every Sunday she'd drive up to the island and we'd go down to the cellar together. Sometimes we'd open a bottle, just a mid-range vintage, nothing too precious. Sometimes she'd bring her own paints and work on a canvas while I read in the corner. "I want to learn to paint like Mom," she said one afternoon. She'd have loved that. It's been 18 months since the divorce. Sophia's doing well. Her firm's growing. She's dating a nice architect from her company who likes her for her building designs, not her inheritance. Last month, she brought him to the island. His name is Nathan. He's 36. Grew up in Victoria. Has a genuine smile and didn't ask a single question about property values. We went down to the cellar together, Sophia and Nathan and me. She showed him her mother's paintings, told him the stories I'd told her. He listened quietly, respectfully. When she finished, he looked at Elena's portrait of our family and said, "This is what love looks like." Sophia squeezed my hand. I'm 68 now. The neurosurgeon precision that guided my hands through 1,000 operations is starting to fade. Tremors, nothing major yet, but I know what's coming. I've updated my will one final time. Everything goes to Sophia directly now. No trust necessary. She understands the value of what Elena left us. Not the dollar signs, but the meaning. The cellar will be hers when I'm gone. She's already planning to add to it. More paintings, more bottles, more family memories. She wants to bring her children down here someday. Teach them about their grandmother. Show them that wealth isn't just what you can sell, but what you can preserve. There's a lesson in all this, one I learned too late and almost lost everything over. Secrets aren't meant to be kept forever, but they need to be revealed to the right people at the right time. Elena knew that. She wanted Sophia to be ready, mature enough to understand that some things are priceless, not because of their market value, but because of what they represent. I also learned that protection and control are different things. I wasn't trying to control Sophia's life by hiding the cellar. I was protecting Elena's legacy until Sophia was ready to receive it. That's what parents do. We hold things in trust, waiting for the moment when our children can understand not just what they're receiving, but why it matters. And here's the hard truth I tell other fathers when they ask about my experience. You can't protect your children from making mistakes. Sophia married Marcus despite my reservations. She had to learn that lesson herself. But you can protect the things that matter most. Ensure that one mistake doesn't cost them everything. That's not being controlling. That's being wise. If I could give advice to anyone facing a similar situation, it's this. Document everything. Know who's coming into your family's life, not with paranoia, but with care. Ask questions, watch behavior, and most importantly, have honest conversations with your children about inheritance, money, and relationships before someone else shapes those conversations for their own benefit. Set up trusts, work with good lawyers, create conditions that protect your legacy without suffocating your heirs. Sophia didn't need a trust to keep the cellar safe anymore, because she'd learned why it mattered. But the trust bought her time to learn that lesson. And finally, understand that some people see family as a resource to extract, rather than a bond to nurture. Marcus saw dollar signs where he should have seen people. That's not love. That's calculation. Teaching your children to recognize the difference might be the greatest inheritance you can give them. The cellar sits beneath the island house, 55 degrees, 70% humidity, exactly as Elena designed it. 300 bottles, 30 paintings, countless memories. The biometric lock now responds to 2 handprints, mine and Sophia's. Eventually, it'll respond to her children's too. Elena used to say that wine gets better with age because time is an ingredient most people undervalue. She was right about that. She was right about most things. The cellar wasn't just about preserving wine or protecting assets. It was about preserving love, family, connection, things that have no price because they're beyond price. I never told my daughter about the wine cellar until she was ready to understand what it really meant. That timing saved everything. Marcus got nothing because he deserved nothing. Sophia got everything because she learned to value what mattered. And some Sunday afternoons, when the light through the cellar's small windows hits Elena's paintings just right, I swear I can hear her laughing, proud of Sophia, proud of the legacy she built, proud that we kept it safe for the people who would cherish it, not exploit it. That's all any of us can do, really. Build something beautiful, protect it wisely, and pass it to someone who understands that the greatest wealth is what can't be bought or sold. It's what's held in trust, in memory, in love. It's what endures when everything else fades. The cellar will outlast me. It'll outlast Sophia. But the love that built it, bottle by bottle, painting by painting, that's eternal, and that's worth more than any appraisal could ever capture.